it's always going back to what is your USP, your unique selling proposition. What is the difference you are bringing to your industry or your market? You need to be super aware of that, and it needs to be simple, clear, and ownable. You need to be like super consistent with it, and you need to hammer that USP through different angles on different touch points all the time. Second is obviously that idea of knowing your audience and also being able to interact with your audience, because long gone are the days of that very vertical relation you had with a brand. Now everything is horizontal, and so it's a dialogue all the time. And probably because it's very dear to me, I would say lead with a purpose in mind, because it's just table stake now. I don't think that brands that don't have a clear purpose-driven mission can attract a loyal customer, and they need to go and see beyond just the immediate profit they make with the products. So I think that is also something I would advise.
Welcome to the Crowdcreate Podcast, where we bring on thought leaders to share the untold stories of how to grow your business. And I'm incredibly excited today because we have Delphine Buchotte on the podcast today, and she brings a wealth of experience that we could draw a ton of value from. So she currently has a DTC healthcare apparel brand called Dolan, an agency called Phidel, and 15 years experience in marketing with L'Oreal. Now, Delphine, did I miss anything that you think is important there?
Thank you very much, Michael. You can add to my background that I was also Chief Marketing Officer for Diane Von Furstenberg, a fashion brand. So, but yeah, that is what I have done so far.
Okay, awesome. So, like I said, I'm really excited to have you because I feel like there's a lot to learn from your experience. And if we go back, I think your experience, I'm going to go big picture first. And I think your experience covers kind of what all this social media stuff is to a completely different landscape today. So the big picture question is, what's different? What's the same? And then what are people going to miss out on if they're not taking advantage of?
Yeah, that's a very good question. When I started my career at L'Oreal, social media was just the beginning. So what I remember at that time is that it has a lot of impact on the way the marketing team will be organizing their efforts. And I think that one important thing was to immediately understand that you had a unique opportunity as a brand to talk to your consumer in a very direct way. So I think that this is still there, right? When we are talking about where it started, how it started, and what do we still need to have today. So that opportunity to talk to your consumer is still there. And so I think that it's so important as a brand to navigate that conversation you have with your consumer through your different social media platforms. They are evolving every day, as we know, introducing new features, introducing new ways to rank your contents. And so you need to stay very curious and on the pulse of all this new iteration, so you can get to be in front of your consumer and potential consumer all the time.
So instant feedback and engagement with your audience.
Yes, and being very close to the platforms that you're engaging your audiences with, because knowing what the platform is going to favor and push will also, dictate your content strategy as a brand.
So what, if we're talking about today's digital landscape, what are kind of the key elements of that constant engagement with your followers of your brand?
Well, I would say two things. First, again, it's like social media. So brand social media, having and making sure that you are present on the most popular platforms, obviously, and embracing new ways of conversation with your consumer on this platform. So for example, right now, live on TikTok is like so important. Live shopping also is absolutely necessary to experience and try. So I would say brand social media. And then the second thing is creators and influencers, because not everything should be a top-down conversation. Your message as a brand doesn't have to come from you necessarily, but you have to invite others to give their POV on your brands and on your product, whether it's through product reviews, tutorial, recipes, fun content. Your consumers, they have a POV, and when they are sharing it, it's definitely participating to your own brand awareness, and making sure that you are developing that advocacy is very important.
But can you dive into that a little deeper? Because I would think that that's a pretty major part of your strategy in any of the stuff that you're doing today.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is really thinking about community first, right? And community is your loyal customers, those who are already adopting your brands. But community, it's also the other communities that you want to outreach. So to give you an example how you can like leverage these communities, I would say that creating communities is really involving fostering connection between the brand and its customers, as well as between the customers themselves. And this can be achieved by different things. So for example, I have a great example of user-generated content. Working for Lavazza, a very famous coffee brand, they wanted to solidify their share of voice on the USA markets. And we found out that one of the first brand query was about how to pronounce the brand name. People were not able to say Lavazza in the Italian way. So we briefed a community of TikTok creators with Italian origins so they could create engaging content about it. And so that was a very powerful way by engaging with a certain community to drive traction to the brands.
That's great, because it's not something you would immediately think of, just saying the name of the brand. But
No.
I guess, in a global marketplace, that becomes more important.
More and more important, and it's definitely like it has an immediate impact on your brand impression and brand awareness, just like by having multiple people saying your brand name at the same time.
Yeah, it's like that idea that the most beautiful word in any language is a person's name, and I guess to a brand, it's going to be their name as well, said by as many people as possible. So when you're seeking out either creators or trying to find communities, is this like an organic process, or is some of it kind of engineered by the brand as well? How do you find those?
So we found those using a lot the in-platform feature. So you have like within TikTok and within Meta creator marketplace, right? That you can really deep dive in and find the people that are the best for your brand. So that is one part of the process. There are a lot of like tools on the market as well that you can use to target the content creators and the influencers you want. And then I guess it's mostly about being super curious about it. And I spend a lot of time, just like on the platforms, looking at some content and some influencers. And each time, like I'm like, oh, that could be nice for one of the brand I'm taking care of. I'm making a contact with them. I'm always trying to start the relation in a very genuine way and super authentic. So it has to go with as I said, some curiosity about their work and their contents, because you don't want everything to be a transaction. The influencer marketing space today is like super crowded and super structured with agents, management team, fees. So you want to make sure that sometimes you're able to like really start on this relationship with something more authentic and intentional. And I think that a good content creator will always be super interested in pushing the boundaries of its own creativity with the help of a brand that gives them carte blanche, and being really like able to do their thing. We are talking to them because they know how to do their thing when we don't. So we need to really like rely on them and allow that creative process. And most of the time, I'm positively surprised.
Yeah. So along those lines, if you're talking about a good content creator, authentic, being curious, when you're looking for these type of people, what are you looking for? Or do you have like examples that you felt were really successful?
Yes. Well, okay. So for example, when I'm looking for a certain type of influencer or content creators, there's two ways to start that process. The first is what my brand needs. And I'm going to give you an example. When I was working at L'Oreal, I was in charge of developing all the content plan for the different product categories. When it comes to the makeup category, one of the first Google search at that time was what's makeup when we're wearing glasses. And so having that in mind, I was like, okay, I need to find an influencer that has a very recognizable look with glasses. And of course, that is interested in makeup. And so I found that girl, and I created a content series with my makeup artist at that time. So they could like just create makeup looks that was perfect for someone wearing glasses. And that was a huge hit because it was an answer, a direct answer to a Google search query. So then, of course, I had a very good SEO hit with that content series. And it's I think it was a very meaningful way to collaborate with that influencer, having that plan in mind. So that's the first part of the process, if your brand has a need. And then the other part is more about what can these creators or influencer bring to you, right? So if I'm launching a new product and this new product is rooted in, cuisine and food and all these recipes, even if I have a product that is part of the ingredient of a recipe, I want to make sure that I'm going to tap into influencer and content creators that are food driven, and they have an audience already that is all about food as well, and they're going to be able to integrate very seamlessly in their recipes my products. So it's either what do I need as a brand, and then I cast someone that can meet that need, or it's either what could these creators bring to me because they have that essential knowledge of this audience I want to target.
So once you find those creators, you found somebody that fits your needs, kind of that relationship that works for both ends. What does the process look like to a sale or a conversion from the content?
So two potential way. Usually when I'm working with content creators on TikTok, I will always negotiate organic and paid usage. What I will do is that first I'm collaborating with the content creator, they develop their concepts, they develop their content, they post. And then as a brand, I'm observing what is going to be the organic performance of that. If the organic performance is good, I'm then asking for a spark code and I'm boosting that, and it's becoming an ad for me. And then I can track the conversion with that, right? So that is one possibility. The other way is affiliates. So if I'm developing strong connection with, for example, with Dolan, we have a brand ambassador program, and I do have some specific influencers that are commissioned with everything that they pay, that they sell on our behalf. So that is another way. I have another good example of how, this type of collaboration can drive really much like impact your sales. So for example, on Dolan, we have collaborated with a community on Instagram under, a big Instagram account. It's not one influencer, it's more of a community of nurses. And we partner with them, and it started in a very authentic, genuine way, as I said earlier. So I knew my consumer was heavily following this community. I knew that thanks to data, right? So I know that. I reach out to them and I'm like, I love what you do. We have amazing product for nurses. What do you think about doing a giveaway first? So they were like, I love your product, let's do it. So they started with a giveaway. And then we scale up that relation, right? So it was activation. We had some fun events. So we did like a bunch of stuff. So that collaboration felt super natural to the audience I was looking after. And then we started to propose the community to push for our products, but again, in the way that they wanted to do. And so she started to do that. She started to really push for some products or amplify our sales promotion. And that resulted in immediate sales because she was provided with a Shopify link that was completely dedicated to her traffic, and that was transforming in sales. And it's one of my biggest affiliates partner now. So yes, I would say influencer can absolutely drive sales.
So you were talking about Dolan a little bit, and as I was reading about you, I read about your partnership with the laundry truck. So that kind of brings me to the next thing I was thinking about, which is partnerships with causes or nonprofits, and how can brands leverage those in this kind of landscape?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that people are really into what we call purpose-led brands in those days. And what is defining a purpose-led brand? It's when they are driven by a core mission beyond just profits. And when that mission resonates deeply with the consumer on an emotional level, that can transform into loyalty. So for example, you mentioned the laundry truck. At Dolan, the purpose is not just only providing the best fitting scrubs, but also to support social cause like homelessness. And the laundry truck LA is a mobile service of laundry that is cleaning and washing the clothes of people unhoused. And this has led to really increase our own consumer loyalty because we have a 1-for-1 program. So whenever you buy one pair of scrubs or one product at Dolan, you are also providing 1 pound of clean laundry. And we had multiple feedback from our consumer saying that they felt they were contributing to a greater cause when they purchase Dolan scrubs. So that has really reinforced my belief that business success and social responsibility can go hand in hand. And it has taught me that, brands can have a role in that, and they can absolutely make positive impacts around us. So that partnership has deeply influenced my approach to ensuring that every brand I'm working with, collaborating with, has a meaningful purpose at its core.
Yeah, and that kind of reminds me of Tom's has done the same thing historically, and a lot of brands have done that, and it seems to be an effective thing as long as it's authentic. I mean, it has benefits, but at the same time, like, you're not doing it because of that. You're doing that because of who you are, and it happens to have benefits.
Absolutely. It has to be very authentic. And essentially, I would say that the ethos of your brand should really remain, as we said, authentic and super consistent. And if aligning it with your revenue goals means framing the products or services as a natural extension of those values. So this is where it goes all together and it works. If you don't bridge that, your ethos, to your product or service, then it's a problem, right? It won't work. So the secret is really when a brand's core values is going to tap into your consumer needs. At Dolan, again, for example, the balance comes from promoting inclusivity in every piece of content, right? So we are marketing our product for every body type. And inclusivity is not only defining the brand ethos, but also drive sales because it's tapping into a real needs of the customers. We have so many feedback from them saying that they are not able to find a pair of scrubs to fit their body, which is absolutely inconceivable when you think that we are talking about a work uniform. So everybody should find their fits. So I think it's a good example of, okay, you think as inclusivity as the brand ethos and it's the set of values that they are playing with, but how does it transform into the actual products and how are you addressing a specific need with that value?
That's great. And you mentioned listening to customers or potential customers. What are some ways that brands can do that so that they can kind of leverage the same values that you've talked about?
Well, you have, of course, like robust social listening tools today that you can use to kind of like take the pulse and understand where you are. I would say that on top of that, I absolutely value, again, social media is perfect for that. I value any DM situation, very quick chats. The new broadcast channel from Instagram is perfect for that because you can really create a conversation in real time with your most loyal group of customers. And actually, they love answering questions. Honestly, I'm so surprised every day. Sometimes I'm like, it's going to be like overwhelming for them to answer my many questions. But no, they love your customers. They love that you are asking them their opinion. And they love even more than that you will be, taking a direction or making a decision based on what they tell you. So for product, for example, at Dolan, and that was the same, I have to say, when I was working at L'Oreal Paris, we always absolutely influence our product developments based on what the consumer is saying to us.
That's great. And I'm going to go back to a question that I kind of started with at the beginning. And you mentioned a couple specific things in social networks for listening, but what kind of trends or what's coming up in your space that you're either excited about or you think that you just don't want to miss the boat on?
Well, trends that I'm really looking into that I feel are really shaping social media engagement in general and e-business in specific, I think are personalized shopping experience. So it's really something that with advancement of AI and machine learning, you can see how much personalized recommendations and experiences will continue to become more sophisticated. And I can't wait that it's fully integrated in a live shopping experience, for example, because that's going to be very fun. Another trend which is very close to that influencer content creation world I'm really deep in, is UGC affiliates. I think that content creation and affiliate will absolutely blend completely. You won't make any difference between these two things. And community commerce will be the norm. You have like so many new tools today that are loyalty tools that are creating space for your own consumer to talk to each others without being monitored by the brand in any way. And these tools, they are absolutely enhancing with features that are mixing content creation, seeding, advocacy, and it's kind of like very fascinating to see all this like blending so beautifully. So that is, UGC affiliate is already a big thing, but will continue. And then I would say, to go back maybe to the purpose that we were talking about as well, I think that the idea of that radical transparency with your consumer will be very up and is driving today the conversation. They are becoming more socially conscious. They know that brands have an active role to play in the world that they are living in. And so they are demanding for more. And at the same time, we know that consumers are more and more engaged with raw and unfiltered content. And so they will ask for brands to share their, everything behind the curtains when it comes to their purpose with no edits. So what it means that you can expect more vlog style, lives, having CEO just sharing, their day-to-day, but again, I insist without any type of edits. It's just like taking your consumer in your journey and show them the failure, the wins, the difficult path to, for example, sustainability or anything that is as a direct bridge with your mission and purpose.
Well, that's great. I have heard that there's almost a fatigue on kind of like the polished, heavily edited, that exactly what you're saying. People want the authentic, unedited, kind of down and dirty of what's really going on.
Absolutely. And that is causing a lot of question in the fashion industry today and the luxury industry in general, because these guys, they know only the polished way. And it's interesting to look at some fashion houses such as Ecommerce today, or you also have Valentino, for example, and look at the way they make a differentiation in their content strategy on platforms like Instagram or TikTok, because they are already like exploring new territories and new way to, just like find some alternative to that very edited, polished, branded type of content that usually a fashion brand is using. It's fascinating to see how these like heritage fashion brands, luxury brands, houses are going to, take that turn, and how they are going to open a little bit more to content made by others than just them. So yeah, that is like a big challenge.
Wow. So let's wrap up with advice. So like advice for people that you see and kind of in your world, if they want to grow, the things they need to do, the things they need to be watching out for.
Well, first, I would say that it's always going back to what is your USP, your unique selling proposition. What is the difference you are bringing to your industry or your market? You need to be super aware of that, and it needs to be simple, clear, and ownable. You need to be like super consistent with it, and you need to hammer that USP through different angles on different touch points all the time. Consistency is very key. So yeah, I would say first your USP, Second is obviously that idea of knowing your audience and also being able to interact with your audience, because long gone are the days of that very vertical relation you had with a brand. Now everything is horizontal, and so it's a dialogue all the time. And probably because it's very dear to me, I would say lead with a purpose in mind, because it's just table stake now. I don't think that brands that don't have a clear purpose-driven mission can attract a loyal customer, and they need to go and see beyond just the immediate profit they make with the products. So I think that is also something I would advise.
I think it's interesting that your advice is just kind of like old school good marketing tactics, regardless of the medium or the technology.
Well, I think it's to your point, it's kind of like having your North Star in place. It's like your boussole. It's just your compass. You have your compass in mind, and then you play with the new technologies and tools and tactics, but just keeping your direction and making what you were set to do. So I always look at evolution with the platforms, or AI and everything that is going to modify your way to talk to the customer as an enhancement and as a new playground, but it doesn't necessarily modify what's my higher objective. So yes, you need to absolutely keep in touch with all these technologies, because they are profoundly changing the marketing landscape, that's for sure. But then I think that marketing is still rooted in very foundational principles that you have to have in mind.
That's great. So foundational principles are key.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well, Delphine, I think that's a wrap for today. And I feel like we got a ton of good info and a lot of value from this conversation. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate it as well.